Okay, in today's clipping, we try and understand the positive role of the government in altering the market price so that it is going to protect the producers or protect the consumers, right? So you know that when the market price is going to be very, very high, then the consumers are not going to be happy about it. Not the entire population will be able to offer the products and services if the market price is going to be very, very high, right? So what will the government do? What should the government do? The government should ideally bring down the price of the product, yes, so that the population will be able to afford that. Now, having said that, if the market price is going to be brought down, that will affect the producers, isn't it? Yeah. So there is always this dilemma as to which group is to be protected. If the market price should be brought down, then that might affect the producers. But then the consumers also have to be protected. So what will the government do in such a case? Especially if it's going to be a necessity product, then on some such necessity products, there is always a ceiling, price ceiling that the government comes up with, right? So let's try and understand the concept of price ceiling through a diagram, right? Okay, so start with the original equilibrium. You know that when the market demand is going to be equal to the market supply, then the market equilibrium is determined, the equilibrium price is determined, and the equilibrium output is determined, fine. And this market price, OP star, let's say that is a very high price, fine. The price is so high that many consumers will not be able to get this product at this price and enjoy the product. So, a welfare government would like to intervene in such a case and have a ceiling on the prices. Fine. So, ceiling on the price, when it is going to be set up, then this could be the price ceiling, fine. The price ceiling that is set up by the government, fine, will be much lower than that of the market price. And now understand this concept very, very clearly. Market price left alone is very high. P star, OP star is very high. Not very many people will be able to buy and enjoy the product at this very high price. So the government is going to intervene and set a ceiling on the price. Fine. So the new price or the price ceiling is going to be PC now. So OPC is what is going to be the price that is fixed up by the government. At this particular price, look at what's happening. At this particular price, there is going to be an excess demand in the market now. Right? See, the market price as fixed up by the government is low. Right? Compared to OP star, now this OPC is much lower. So naturally at this price, there is going to be an excess demand. Right? Many would love to buy at this new price which is low, isn't it? Yeah. So there is going to be an excess demand at this price, and thereby, what will be the result? Many people would love to buy the product. What will happen? The supply is relatively less, fine. To an extent of AB, there is an excess demand. Let us say PCA is what is the supply, whereas PCB is what is the demand. So this excess demand is going to now push up the price, but then the price cannot go up. There is a ceiling. There is a ceiling. The government has said, yeah, this is the price, PC, that's all. The product cannot be sold at a higher price. So, what will happen? There would be exploitation. Fine? There would be exploitation. So outside of the market, right, whoever wishes to buy can pay a high price and can buy the product at a high price with very little to sell. We see A as what is the supply, right? But there is an excess demand, right? So whoever can afford the product will be ready to somehow buy the product which is less. So all those who are ready to pay a high price will be ready to pay a high price, right? Note that whoever is ready to pay a high price, whoever will be willing to pay a high price will be buying at a higher price outside of the market, because as such the government has set up a ceiling, right? And it is illegal to sell at a higher price, right? But it happens, right? Where do we see this? What is this price that we are talking about? The price that we are talking about is probably the controlled price or the ration price. Fine? So, what is this ration price? You know the system of PDS, isn't it? The public distribution system. The public distribution system is a system through which the necessity products are sold to the poor, the below poverty line population. They will be able to enjoy some of these necessity products at a controlled price or at a ration price. So that ration price will be a much lower price compared to the open market price. If the open market price is going to be OP star, then the controlled price or the ration price will be OPC. So at this price, many people will be willing to buy, so there would be an excess demand in the market. Fine. But then sadly at this price, the supply will be less. So that is why there would be people who are willing to offer a high price, profit sharing over here. So the system of hoarding and profiteering and trying to sell at a high price and exploiting some of these below poverty line population might happen in some centers. Right? So that is the outcome of this price ceiling, because when the price ceiling is going to be imposed, there happens to be an excess demand in the market, and there is a possibility that those who can afford are going to put up a demand at a high price. So when they try and put up a demand at a high price, then there is going to be exploitation of such population. Right? What are the other problems? One is, of course, I just pointed out just here that there could be exploitation of the population. Whoever can afford, they are going to probably out of the market, try and buy at a high price. That's one common problem. Right? Yet another problem is the people going and standing there in the queue, and very often we hear this, isn't it? I went all the way to the ration shop today. I had to stand in a big queue out there. But then before my turn could come, the fellow closed down the shop and said, that's all, supply over, done, today's quota over, come back tomorrow. And then people go back. Yeah? Why do you see? Why do you hear to all these things? Because you see that the supply is much lesser at this price compared to that of the demand, isn't it? Yeah. So that is why you keep hearing that there is a shortage at this price. So the first outcome is, out of the market there could be a set of people who will be willing to buy at a high price, which is an exploitative practice. Fine. So there could be exploitation at this particular price level. That's one outcome. The second one is that there could be a shortage. Right? There could be a shortage of the products and services, and so the population might not be very much happy. Not all the consumers are going to receive their quota, and thereby they may not be enjoying their products and services. So there is going to be a shortage and long queue before the PDS or the ration shop, and dissatisfaction prevailing among the population. Right? So that's going to be another outcome. Right? But all said and done, this is how the price ceiling works in the market. Now, because of two different prices that prevails out here, we understand that there is also this dual pricing system that might exist. For all those who can afford the product, the market price will be OP star. You get that? For all those who can afford the product, they will be buying the product at the open market rate, which is OP star, right? Which is a much higher price. And for the BPL, for the below poverty line population, there is this system of PDS or ration shop where the government is going to sell the necessity product at a lower price, and that would be at a controlled price. Fine, there's going to be a price ceiling at a lower price. Fine, the products might be sold. And as a result of this price ceiling, these are the problems. These are the problems that might arise. Fine, so what is the intention of the government here? The intention of the government is to protect the consumers and to procure the products and provide to them at a lower price. Fine. So this is one concept. This is one concept of price ceiling. Fine. Where the consumers are protected. You might have as well understood about the other concept also. What is that? Protection of the producers. So how will the producers be protected now? Producers can also be protected by the government intervention, especially in the primary sector. When farmers, they always have this fear of not being able to enjoy a good return, right? The government, it procures at a stipulated price well in advance of the harvest season. The government is going to promise the farmers that it would procure the produce at a higher price, isn't it? So what does that tell you? How does that work? Let's try and understand that concept also. Fine. So let's start with the price, market price that is determined, and that market price is a price at the original demand and the supply curve. Now what is the concept we are trying to understand out here? The concept where the government is going to intervene and where the government is going to protect the suppliers. Why? Because this market price, let's say P star, is a very low market price, fine, and that price does not even cover the cost of production for the suppliers. And you might have heard that, oh, we all work so hard. Fine, but then there was a bumper cropping. Fine, there was a bumper cropping. Supply was enough, but then since the supply was a lot, the price fell in the market. Probably that is what the farmers would tell, right? So the market price that they are going to get left alone is going to be a very, very low price. So the government should intervene in such a case and protect the farmers, isn't it? So the government will promise the producers or the farmers, in this case the suppliers, that it would procure the produce at a higher price. What are we talking about? We are talking about the MSP. We are talking about the MSP, the minimum support price. So this minimum support price will be a higher price than that of the market price. Left alone, market price is too low, which does not even cover the cost of production for the farmers, right? So the government will try and procure at a higher price than that of the market price, right? So this will be the MSP, the minimum support price, right? Which is also called as the floor price, right? Which is also called as the floor price. Why is it called as? See, the other one was called as the ceiling, right? The earlier concept that we discussed about the ceiling price. The price charge should not be above that, right? Ceiling, a cap on the price, right? The price charge should not be above that, right? To protect the consumers, that was a pricing. Here, the MSP or the minimum support price is the floor price, minimum. Fine? Right? That is the minimum. That is, the price should not go down below that. Fine? Only when the price does not go down below that, then the producers will be supported. If the price is going to fall below that, the producers or the suppliers, they will suffer a loss. Right? So that's a minimum price that can be charged. Okay? Right? So that's also called as a floor price or the minimum support price. So this minimum support price, when it is going to be fixed up by the government, then what happens in such a case? In such a case, you can very well see that there is an excess supply. Fine? See, compared to the open market price, which is OP star, this price is much higher. Fine? At this much higher price, more and more suppliers will be willing to supply. Isn't it? Compared to P star, this is much higher. So the suppliers will love to supply more at this high price. Isn't it? So that's why there is an excess supply at this price. You get it? Right? So when there is going to be an excess supply, fine, what will happen? But then the price cannot be a very high price. What did we say? This is supposed to be a floor price. Fine? Below this, the price should not be charged. Fine? This is the price that should be charged. Fine? And at this high price, there would be an excess supply. Fine? So, outside of the market, what will happen? I want you to think. And this is exactly what happens in our labor market in India. Fine? Thanks to the teeming millions. So much of population is there, very high population, isn't it? We are second in that, next only to China. Fine? We have the world's second largest population. So thanks to that, we have so many people who try and offer their labor, isn't it? They try and offer their labor. Fine? So when they're all ready in the labor market, fine? Yeah, what happens then? There is a minimum wage act. There is a minimum wage act. Below that, the wages should not be given. Fine? Minimum wage is fixed up as per law. It is fixed up and the wage should not go down below that. Fine? So that's a law. But what happens sadly in the market when there are so many people who are ready to work? Fine? There is a competition among the people who seek out for job. So they are willing to take up the job even at a lower wage rate than the one that is stipulated by the government. Or below the minimum wages also, there are going to be so many more people ready to work. Fine? What happens here? Excess supply of labourers. Think of labour market. Too many labourers are there. Everybody wants a job and then the demand for labour not there. Fine? The demand for labour is not enough, but supply of labour ample. Fine? Everybody wants to get a job. So they will be willing to take up the job even at a lower rate. Yes, that happens, isn't it? So that is yet another kind of exploitation that might happen there. Fine? People will be willing to take up the job at a lower rate also, isn't it? Yeah. So that is one impact that you see in a labor market where there could be exploitation, which is similar to that of your farming. We start off by saying this is the MSP or the minimum support price that is fixed up at a higher level than the market price. Fine? When it is going to be fixed up at a higher level than the market price, at that higher level, there could be an excess supply in the market. Fine? So this excess supply, it leads to illegally dropping the price. So people, from how many farmers will the government be able to procure? And what will the government do? Come on, you are very well aware of the buffer stock, isn't it? The government will procure the products from the farmers and it will maintain in the buffer. Fine? and it is from this buffer probably it would be the procurement will be sent to the PDS. Also buffer is maintained for contingencies, right? Buffer is maintained for contingencies when the supply is not enough, when the supply shortage is going to be there, then to provide the basic necessities to the population, the government will take out of buffer and provide it. Take up the case of there is going to be a flood or there is going to be a drought, what will happen then? There will be a fall in the produce, isn't it? Supply will not be the same in agriculture. Due to drought and due to flood-like situations, there will be a complete washout and production might not be enough. Shortage of food supply will be there, isn't it? So the government will resort with the buffer stock. Procuring at a high price, the government will keep the products in the buffer and it will supply later to the population at a low price. Look at this, understand this, these two are connected. The government is going to buy at a procurement price which is a higher price, fine, which is going to support the farmers and keep the produce in the buffer, and later on it is going to sell this produce through the PDS to the consumers at a lower price. Fine. So these two are very well connected. Fine. So that's how it is going to happen. Fine. Yeah. So buffer, maintaining buffer is one outcome due to this MSP. And what is the other outcome? The farmers are going to stay protected. But we've also discussed the other possibility. When there is this problem of excess supply at this particular price, there could be exploitation also. As I said, how many will be lucky enough to sell the produce to the government at this procurement price? Not very many. They will be probably again at the mercy of the intermediaries or the large retailers. So they will be forced to sell to these large retailers at a low price. At a low price. Fine. Yeah. So once more there could be exploitative practices happening out here, which could be the outcome in such a case. Right. So what we've understood over here are two different concepts. One is a concept of price ceiling, when the government is going to come out with a price ceiling, or when it is going to set up a cap, then what is the outcome? And then when there is going to be a price floor or a minimum support price fixed by the government, then what is the outcome? That is what we have seen through these two diagrams. Fine. So that marks the end of price determination chapter. So what you have understood in this particular chapter is how the market forces of demand and supply, they are going to change and thereby bring about the change in the market price. Also, if the market price is going to be very high, if the market price is going to be very low, it could affect either the producer or the consumer. So in such a case, how government intervention will change things and thereby protect the population is the last concept that we have understood. Right? So with that we end the price determination chapter. Hope you understood. Right? Namaste.